Welcome to Healed, Whole, Called, a podcast centered on the healing power of Jesus and what it means to walk in wholeness and calling in real life. This is a space for honest conversations about faith, healing, and restoration, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally, and how those truths meet us in everyday life. This podcast is supported by the Story Discernment Guide, a reflective resource created for those who sense they are carrying a story meant for more, but want clarity before writing, publishing, or sharing it publicly. The guide is designed to help you pause, pray, and discern what you're stewarding without rushing or pressure. You can access it at storycalling.info. And now, here's your host, Wendy Melrose.
Hey, everybody. Today's guest is a coach, international speaker, and best-selling author whose work has impacted over 500,000 people worldwide. Kam Knight has written more than a dozen books on mental, emotional, and physical performance, each offering fresh insights that break away from the traditional ideas and set a new way of standards in their fields. Having traveled to over 100 countries, Kam brings a global perspective to his work, but his passion today centers on one powerful question. Why is it that even when we want to do something, know how to do it, and have the motivation, we still don't follow through? His groundbreaking work on internal resistance is helping everyone everywhere, people everywhere, overcome the struggle and unlock the path to real transformation. So, welcome, Kam.
Thank you very much, Wendy. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to learn about how you have been studying and really have focused on internal resistance because we all know that in order to teach and inspire and move others, we had to have learned how to create that inside of ourselves. So tell
Yeah.
us how did you come about with internal resistance? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So for most of my life, I've been a fairly driven individual. And what I say is that nowadays we live in a culture and society with so much personal development content and everyone telling you to do more, be your best self, and reach for the stars. As a result, I've always wanted to do more and I wanted to have more and I wanted to be more in life. And it didn't help that I had parents and an older brother who really pushed and created this drive for more.
Mm-hmm.
And although I feel like I've had my fair share of success, I always felt like I missed the mark or the
Mm-hmm.
success was much more difficult and stressful than it needed to be.
Right.
And I wondered why that was. Why is it if I want to do something, I know what to do, I know how to do it, and I have the motivation, desire to do it, but for one reason or another, I can't or don't do it? Now, at the time, there were no clear answers. When I finally started getting into personal development, one of the biggest concepts that I came across was beliefs and how important it was for you to have positive beliefs or the opposite of limiting beliefs. And then there's also talk around having motivation and discipline. And I think those are all keys to the puzzle, but I
Mm-hmm.
always felt like there was more to it. And over the last 15 to 20 years, that question lingered in my mind. Every time I felt stuck, I wondered why. Why can't I get stuff done? Why do I keep spinning my wheels? Why don't I just do this dang thing so I can get the result that I want?
Right.
And the more books I read, and the more coaching I did, and the more seminar I attended, the more I learned about the complexities of the human brains.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was hearing a lot was, oh, this is what holds you back, or this is what can get in your way, or this is what creates challenges. And
Mm-hmm.
over time, my brain started to come to the realization that, hey, wait a minute, there's a part of our brain designed to hold us back. There's a part of our mind built to keep us from growing and making progress. And I call this part resistance, and it's this brick wall that we hit anytime that we want to do something, but we can't, no matter how much we want to do it.
Mm-hmm. So, what was it that helped you find the breakthrough?
The breakthrough was actually a long time coming because, as I mentioned, there was a lot of stuff that I did want to do when I was wanting to write my first book. It took me over 2 years to get
Mm-hmm.
to writing the book. And once I finished it, I didn't feel confident in it. And I had forgot that I even written it. Like it was like about 10, 12 years later, I realized, oh, wow, I had written this book, and one person said that it wasn't good, and a part of my mind accepted it
Mm.
and kind of put it away, filed it away, and not wanting to admit that I had even written it.
Mm.
And then, I would come across resistance all the time. Like I wanted to improve my health and I wanted to work on this. And, when I would go to these different events or would learn about what was going on internally, it was a lot of, hey, this is what's going to help stop you. This is what's going to get in the way. And then I would say maybe around 6 years ago, maybe even longer. Yeah, 6 years ago, I was at an event, they were talking about identity and how important identity was to being able to do what we want to do. And
Mm.
if what we're trying to do is not in line with our identity, our brain, and more or less, will stop us or it'll be difficult to go through that thing.
Mm.
And then I was writing a speech, I was going to deliver a speech. And then all of a sudden, this concept came up like, oh my gosh, like there's a part of our brain built to hold us back. And the way I help people understand this is that the part of the mind that creates wants and desires, it works separately and independent of the part that allows us to act on the desire.
Mm.
So this is important. I'm going to say it again. The part of the brain that creates desires works separately from the part that allows us to act on the desire.
Mm.
So we have one part of our mind creating wants, and it's more or less creating endless wants. It
Mhm.
doesn't check to see if we have the time, energy, or resources to achieve the want. It simply creates wants, and it's kind of like an automatic process, and it's just happening all the time. But
Mhm.
then we have this other part that actually gives us a green light on the want. And it's the part that decides or checks to see if we have the time, energy, and resources. So, what's really important to understand is that the brain can both create a desire for something and at the same time keep us from going after it. And for a long time, I used to think that was kind of messed up. Like,
Mhm.
how could someone want a being to have all these desires but not be able to go after it? And it makes sense when you think about it from this perspective.
Mhm. So, so it doesn't have to be as complicated as I want to start this big business. It could be as simple as getting up and have a cup
Yes.
of coffee and reading a book or not reading a book or cleaning your house. It can be simple tasks
Yeah.
as well. So um is it stressors that can add to what's over, like, so you have over here your wants, desires, you have over
Yeah.
here the green light, right?
Yeah.
So is the green light turning to red more when there's too much stress going on, or what did you find that's
Yeah.
causing the green light for the stopping the green light?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So I do want to say one thing about the stressor. So stressors is more or less anxiety, and
Mhm.
anxiety is at the most basic level, fear.
Right.
And so a lot of times people think resistance is fear, but what I tell them is fear is a manifestation of resistance. So
Okay.
if the brain decides it's going to hold you back, oftentimes it uses fear to do
Mm.
that. And a lot of times we confuse our inability to take action or move forward with
Mm.
fear, but there's something underlying that's triggering the fear. And
Mm.
so, how this process works is anytime a decision or a desire stands before you, that decision gets analyzed by this part of the brain using a whole host of criteria.
Mm.
And if that decision is not in line with any of the criteria, it will prevent action. So, a
Mm.
great analogy for this is think of standing before a panel of judges or board of directors.
Okay.
Every decision that comes up must go through them. And if
Mhm.
even one of the members is against the idea, it won't pass.
Mm.
So, what are these criterias? It actually is a host of criterias, and some of the more commonly known ones, or that get talked about in personal development, include beliefs, habits, or comfort zones. So, if we're trying to do something that goes against our beliefs, the brain's going to make it difficult to do it. If
Mm.
we're trying to do something that is not in line with our habits, same thing. If we're trying to move outside of our comfort zone, resistance will arise. But these are some of the more, like I said, commonly known, but it goes quite deep. In my in my work around this, I found there's a good 25 to 30 things that the brain is evaluating. And some of
Mm,
them can be things like authority issues.
mm,
So, growing up, if a person has been told a lot of what to do and not to do, at a certain point, the brain gets fed up and
mm,
doesn't want to listen. And so the authority issues kicks in and it keeps us from doing something because it doesn't want to give the people who told us what to do satisfaction.
mm,
Things like inner child come into play, the identity comes into play, self
mhm,
image comes into play. What's really interesting is a lot of time resistance comes up not because the brain is preventing us from doing the task or activity, but finishing or completing a task or activity will lead to a brain.
mm,
So a great example of this is a lot of authors want to write a book and tell their story and get their message out there. And even though self-publishing is becoming easier than ever, I can give a person some really simple tips and tricks to quickly write and finish a book. And many will start, but very few will finish. Why? Because finishing it will mean facing something they're bigger that they're avoiding. Because
mhm.
once you finish it, you have to market it and put yourself out there. Marketing is a lot of work, and putting your art there exposes yourself to feedback and criticism.
Right.
And some people aren't at a place to receive feedback and criticism. So the brain will make them procrastinate on something now to
Mhm.
avoid something bigger. So
Uh,
there's all these criteria. So I just kind of gave you a sample of it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So as a writing self-publishing facilitator, I run into that all the time, right?
Yes.
I even one of my authors, I actually didn't coach her in any of it. She found me on Facebook and she's like, I want help getting this book on Amazon. I'm like, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
And we just talked it through. I made her feel, safe. And I'm like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. These are the steps we're gonna take. And she's like, okay. And then, so Monday I go, okay, or Tuesday I go, let's put it on Amazon. She's like, okay. I told her over the weekend we would put it on
Yeah.
Amazon Tuesday. I woke up to a message at 5 a.m. and she's like, I'm scared. And I'm like, okay, like just tell me
Yeah.
more about that. And she's like, well, what if it's not successful? Or what if something else? And I go, let's not measure success by what anybody says or in sales.
Yeah.
Success because you followed through and you became an author. Most people don't even get this far.
Yeah.
And I go, they say they're going to do it. They start, they don't even start. They say they're going to do it. They start, they don't finish. They say they're going to do it. They start, they finish, they don't publish.
Yes.
Just like all the things you just said, right? And then I'm like, I go, but I don't have to rush you with this. I go, this is all about feeling peace, not
Yeah.
pressure. And she's like, let's go. And so, all
Yeah.
right. So she's messaged me that side. She goes, this waiting process is scary. I'm like, I
Yeah.
understand. I go, it's in review. I told her it takes
Yeah.
72 hours. Sometimes it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
She's
Sometimes
like,
it's like 24 hours and the book
oh
is
yeah.
live.
Yeah, I've had it
Yeah.
happen in as less as 12. And I'm like, wow,
Yeah.
that was really fast. But most of the time it's between 24 to 72 hours. I don't know why it takes longer sometimes, whatever. But like always tell my authors at the beginning of the whole process that having the motive of why you're doing this and having it in perspective and doing this not for others but for self and for honoring God in everything that you're doing, it takes away the pressure of success. It doesn't mean that
Yeah.
a lot aren't going to sell.
Yeah.
It's just have the right motives because we all know having the wrong motives can drive a whole nother mess of things.
Yeah. So there's a lot you said there to unpack. One is, yeah, there is, living in a culture and society that we're living in, success is really defined by money and material things. And unfortunately, there's more to success than that.
Correct.
And then the other aspect of this person's story, it really hits home on this concept of resistance. She had the book, it was done, it was time to publish it. It wasn't going to take effort. She was getting actual help from you to do it. And then all of a sudden, the resistance came up and she
Hmm.
couldn't move forward. And it's easy to assume that that was fear, but there was something underlying or beneath
Hmm.
that fear. And for
Hmm.
her, it was, what if it's not successful? And I even suspect there was more going on. Maybe people will leave a bad review. And
Mm-hmm.
if she's the type of person who, where there's a lot of pain with feedback, negative feedback and criticism, that can be enough to cause
Mm-hmm.
resistance. So that's another reason for
Right.
resistance. For the some people just are a lot more sensitive to feedback and criticism. And
Mm-hmm.
the more we become exposed to it, so let's say we have to go up on stage or we have to publish that book, the more potential for that feedback criticism, the higher the resistance. So yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's true. And even in my own business, I don't know if you ever get into spiritual warfare at all with what you're doing, but um I just have been noticing a lot of attacks lately. They I diffuse them, everything's fine, but I believe there's sometimes external forces that try to stop you from fulfilling the calling that you have on your life.
yeah,
And I was talking nuts over with my friend last night, and she's like, "I'm sure you're experiencing more attacks than you're sharing with me." And I go, "I am. I know I'm doing what God wants me to do. He called me
yeah,
to this. But I'd be lying if I didn't say there are some days it takes all I have to keep going because I refuse to give up and I will not
yeah,
let anybody stop me." And maybe that's the internal resilience you're talking about. Some
yeah,
days it's easier because it's like it flows, it's great. And then all of a sudden you get like a whop in the face
yeah,
and with words or whatever, and you can't let it stop you. You have to filter it
yeah,
and realize like this isn't going to stop me. I don't care. And sometimes you end the day going to bed feeling like you got beaten up, but you wake up
yeah,
the next day knowing I'm going to do this anyway.
yeah. And this is another a lot to unpack here. So words are powerful. The way the brain works, it puts a lot of influence on what people are saying. So
Hmm.
even though we have good abilities, we might be strong and smart and capable, someone saying something to the contrary, the brain can overwrite our potential just because of someone's word. So
Hmm.
we are very sensitive to words, especially the words of others. And
Right.
what's really interesting and something that we talked about earlier before we started jump down is the way the brain works, it focuses more on negative than the positive.
Hmm.
So sometimes it takes 10 positives to counteract or reverse or just neutralize a negative. And so words, really can create a lot of unpleasant feelings. And so if you are receiving attacks, and if you are receiving, let's just say, negative feedback or comments, it does affect us. Some days it can bounce off, but then if we receive enough, it can overwhelm us. And like I
Hmm.
said, our brain, the more sensitive we become to feedback or rejection of others, the more resistance it creates.
Hmm.
And so, yes, I mean, a resistance can come up for that reason as well. The one
Hmm.
thing that's really important to understand is they're just words.
Hmm.
Just because somebody says something doesn't make it real.
Correct. Or true.
Exactly, doesn't make it true at all. And the other thing I wanted to say is there's always going to be haters and there's always going to be negative people.
Hmm.
I don't know I don't want to get too political,
Yeah.
and I don't want to get into anyone's beliefs. I don't support this person or not, but one of the things Donald Trump said early on in one of his books is that when you become successful, people hate you. People who
Yeah.
don't even know you start to hate you.
Sure.
And it's really fascinating because it is the human condition in some ways. We do get jealous or we do want to hold people down
Right.
without even listening to what they're saying. It's just going to happen.
Right.
And that was one of the challenges I had when I was writing. The feedback and the criticism was too much. And I didn't even realize that's what my brain was holding me back.
Right.
I just felt this need to not publish my first book. And as I had mentioned, the first book I wrote, like, because someone said, no, this book is not going to do well, I immediately thought, okay, this is not a good book. And I put it out of my mind and didn't even think about it. Luckily, I continued writing, and as I wrote, my writing got better. But the the influence of others did create that strong resistance in me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did publish my first book, when I would get like the negative feedback, oh, it hurt. It was like a dagger to the heart.
Yeah,
But I just kept writing, making my writing better. I used that feedback to actually understand how I could improve the book. And once I started doing that, my writing improved, and as I grew, my books grew. And then now I get a lot more feedback than positive feedback than negative feedback. In fact, now on Amazon, I have over 10,000 ratings.
that's awesome.
And yeah, I'm happy to hear, majority of them are positive.
That is really great. And that's not an easy feat as well, because, often people think just because you write it, just because you publish it, people will read it. You have
Yeah,
to talk about it
you have to talk about.
and make it and be vulnerable and, be on podcasts, try to, just get the exposure you need to get.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that 10,000 didn't happen over.
No, it's been over the last 15 years.
So that's amazing. So you take 15
Yeah.
years divided by 10,000, that tells you how long it takes for that to happen. Now,
Yeah.
no compound. The more it compounds, the faster it grows. But, I would love to dive a little deeper in how would people begin to build resistance? How can they start to build more green lights?
Yeah.
And maybe it's going through the childhood trauma, the lies that you've been told over your life, or because I know that myself, even my own identity, I like to say my identity is in Christ. The more I keep that centered, the stronger I am for me,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so things can be happening all around me, and I keep moving forward anyway. And I seem to react more in a way of peace instead of offense.
Yeah. So, yeah. So there's three parts to this answer. And the first is it's not a very easy thing to overcome resistance because we're dealing with all these different criteria. If a person has limiting beliefs, we got to work on that. If a person doesn't have good habits, they got to work on developing the habits. If there is fear of moving out of the comfort zone, then we need to work on it. So it really helps to understand the causes of resistance and work on the individual thing. So there's no one quick cookie cutter solution. And unfortunately, that's what people are looking for.
Mm,
And unfortunately, the people who are looking for that don't make much progress
right.
because we have to hit on the issue that's creating the resistance. And what's interesting is what works for one thing wasn't going to work for another. And often what works for another can actually be counterproductive to the first. So
Mm,
that's the first thing. The second thing is um, understanding how a person takes action. And you talked about something really important, how, well, one thing is some people want to write a book but don't even start. Other people will start the book but they don't finish. Some people finish but they don't get to they don't actually publish. And there's one more step. Some people will actually publish, but then they won't do the things to market it. So,
correct.
so these are the four main issues people have. And
Mhm.
what I say for the people who are good at getting excited about doing things, starting things, whether it's exercise, writing the book, or anything, but they never start, it's really important for them to cut out all their distractions and pick one thing and
Mhm.
just focus on one thing. The people who are good at starting but stop, I give them a tool that's kind of similar to meditation. So I don't know how meditation fits in with your beliefs.
Yeah, so we meditate on scripture, right?
Yes.
And it's very important to fill our mind with
Yes.
things that are good and true and edifying of who we are by our creator. So, good words, good meditation, fine.
Yeah. Okay, so that's great. Yeah, so in more or less meditation is keeping good thoughts in or clearing your mind.
Hmm.
But it's impossible to do it forever. You can't keep your mind clear for the entire meditation session or hold on to a thought for an entire meditation session. But the key, that's not the key. The key is when you fall off, you jump right back in. So for the people who are good at starting, what they need to understand is that anytime they fall off, Don't go into beat up or blame or anything like that. Just jump back in. And when you fall off again, jump back in. Fall off again, jump back in until you get to the finish. For the people who are good at getting to the finish or right before the finish to sabotage themselves, what's really important to understand for that is that it's really the way the mind and body work, we need to build a muscle for and habit for things. And we need to build a muscle for finishing tasks. And a lot of people are who are good at starting but not finishing, they just haven't built the muscle for it. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's really important for them to get to the finish with whatever they're starting.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they might have to put sheer will and force to do it.
Mm-hmm.
When I wrote my book, Concentration and Speed Reading, those are my
Uh-huh.
ninth and 10th book, I came up with a lot of resistance. And I knew if I didn't finish it, it'll spill over into other areas. And I'm like, no matter what. So I spent day and night making sure I got those books to the finish line. And
Mm-hmm.
once I built the muscle, I was able to finish other harder things. So that's really
Mm-hmm.
important.
That's
And
good.
and the last one is people who get to the finish think, okay, I put in all this effort. Now I can relax and let go. But what's really important for them to understand is that it's much harder to keep success than it is to achieve it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to continue that effort to keep the momentum going. So a great example would be exercise. A lot of people get to their ideal weight or wherever they're trying to achieve, and then they're like, okay, now I can let go. But they have to actually keep putting in that effort to maintain it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the kind of the model I use to help people overcome the resistance. Now, if there was a simple solution, it would be in self-talk. And a self-talk are statements that you say or repeat to yourself of the
Mm-hmm.
changes that you want to have or have happen. So in this example, if a person wants to become an author, they would say, I am a successful author. I am finishing and publishing my book.
Mm-hmm.
Now, these words don't seem like they're much, but as we said, words are powerful. And if a
Mm-hmm.
person repeats them verbally, not just writing them down or putting it on the mirror, those words go into the mind and they rewire us to
Mm-hmm.
create that outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And if a person is looking for that simple solution that can work on the other areas much easier, self-talk is the way to go.
Right.
And I have two self-talk statements that have been really big shifts in helping people do more and accomplish more. And it took me nearly 15 years traveling to over 100 countries to narrow it down to this statement that really resonates to a wide audience. Do you think your audience would be interested in hearing it?
Yeah.
All right, great. So it's I'm a do it now person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish my goals right away. And the second part is I'm deserving, have permission, and I'm having good things. And
That's
I'm
good.
gonna I'm gonna quickly break down the psychology of these two statements because once people understand it, they'll be more encouraged to do it. So I'm a do it now person creates the identity of a person who does things now.
Mm.
So when there is a desire or drive to do something, that desire gets filtered through resistance, and resistance goes, oh yeah, I'm a do it now person. So it allows us to do it. And then I added, I easily do things now because doing things can be painful and strainful. And if we can repeat, I easily do things now, it makes a lot of what we're doing just more enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
And the last part, I easily accomplish my goals right away. It's easy to do a lot of things and just spin in circles,
Mm-hmm.
but this focuses us on a path and a clear direction. So I'm a do it now person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish my goals right away. And the next part actually hits up on the resistance as well. Because what I found in my work is a lot of when we go really deep into what's going on for a person, a lot of their challenges come from undeserving. So if they can repeat, I'm deserving, it helps to counteract that. The second part is a lot of people are looking for permission. You know, since
Mm-hmm.
we were kids, we were told what to do, what not to do, when to do it, how to do it. So that it conditioned the brain to receive permission to do things.
Mm.
And what I found in my own coaching and talking to coaches and going to seminars and stuff is people are spending all this money on coaching, listening to podcasts, going out to these events because they're just seeking permission to do what they want. Like they're
Mm,
paying this big money for someone to give them permission. But
that's good.
yeah, with this statement, you give yourself permission. And the last part, I'm having good things. People can change that to I'm having great things, or I'm having big things, or I'm having enjoyable things. And that's just a forward movement of that happening.
Mm,
So, yeah,
that's so good.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you talked about the permission thing. I had a call yesterday with my holistic wellness professional, and we were talking about swimming. And she goes, I give you permission. And I'm like, it was very freeing
Yeah,
because, you know, but by telling yourself that you give yourself permission,
yeah,
it breaks so many things off of you.
yeah,
And it was just, I don't know. I don't even know exactly how to explain how it felt.
yeah,
But that right there, I totally come in agreement with both of your sentences. The
yeah.
permission part,
It's huge.
it's massive.
Yeah. And it's not being talked about a lot, but it's what people are really seeking. And again,
Mm-mm.
we're spending a lot of money for hiring coaches and maybe experts and things of that
Mhm.
nature. And essentially, we're doing it just to give us permission.
Yeah,
So
you know what you could do is like you could just charge like I'll pay me $1, I'll give you permission.
more or less
You'd be a millionaire in a minute.
in a minute. Yeah. Why don't we take a moment and give your audience permission to do what they're trying to do? So
Yeah.
Wendy and I give you permission
Yes.
to those who are listening to go after what it is that you want and to have and enjoy it.
Yeah. Amen. It is so good. And it's funny. Some people will tell me how much how it's not going to sound right to my audience sometimes, but like they say then plus I'm female, so it doesn't really biologically make sense that I have the balls of steel when it comes to just doing well, if God calls me to do something, I just do it.
Yeah,
And but learning to have the self-talk. So, there's power in our tongue. Just like you had said, it's even biblically speaking,
yeah,
we can create life and we can create death with our words. And that's for ourselves too. So often we claim sickness over our lives by saying, I have blank or
yeah,
my body has blank. Well, don't own it. You can say my body is processing. You may have it,
yes,
but it's processing out. It doesn't get to stay. It doesn't have permission to contain habitat
yeah,
for forever. And the
yeah,
same thing with, the stinking thinking as Zig Ziglar always talks about, right?
yeah,
It's like, even when we say things in jest, right? I don't even want to say it out loud because I don't want to speak it over my life, but we'll say things about ourselves when we don't do something the way we think we should do it, and we'll
yeah,
call ourselves names, right?
yeah,
That doesn't serve us, and our subconscious begins to believe that, and then
yeah,
we wonder why it continues to manifest.
exactly. Yeah. And what I help people understand is that a lot of the voices in our heads, they're either the voice of our desires or the voice of our resistance. The
That's
thing
good.
is, they're both our voices, but well, what I want to say is one is the voice of resistance. And because it's in our head, we think it's our voice. We think we're thinking them. So when these negative voices come up, because we're thinking them, we think they're true and we're valid and we act on them.
Right.
But it's really important for us to differentiate between the voice of our desires or our higher self and the voice of resistance. And although it seems like you're thinking them or they're your voice, they're actually not. And we can actually pick those voices.
Hmm.
And you had said something earlier that I wanted to riff on, but it's not coming to mind. But when it does, I'll let you know.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I just, anyone that's listening, where our circumstances are, they don't have to remain, and they can change in an instant.
Yeah,
Money can flow in an instant. Circumstances can change in an instant. Healing can happen in an instant.
Yeah.
So sometimes our limiting beliefs and our, can cause things to be longer than they were ever meant to be.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I've had it where I've had some years where I lived 5 years, or like enough great things happened in one year. It's like most people live that in a lifetime. And so, why does that happen? Because I walked in obedience, I declared and decreed, I praised, I sang, I was in such a positive mode.
Yeah.
All the doors opened and I ran through them all,
Yeah.
right? But then the next year, it felt like everything shut, boom, everything crashed, and it was a terrible year. But there was other extra things added to it. I didn't do well in 2024 managing any of my negativity, but God, restores, redeems. And I was even reading in a Bible study today about how God, if you just take, if let's just say 2024, I took some wrong turns, but God can very quickly make that short, put you right back on the track, and as if you lost no time.
Yeah.
So don't sit there and think that, oh, I've interviewed some people like, man, if I would have just listened to what God wanted me to do when He asked me to do it 5 years earlier, I'd be in a different place. Well,
Yeah.
no, because one, you have all of that experience, all of that convergence, but then also He can redeem and fast everything up, fast forward it.
Yeah.
And so I mean, don't even let your don't let anything become shame because it delays you. It becomes
Yeah.
resistance.
Yeah. Yeah. And shame is another piece that of the resistance equation. Like if we want to do something and the mind goes, oh, we have a lot of shame, or we
Hmm.
have a lot of shame around this,
Hmm.
and that can create resistance. So yeah, I mean, the human mind is very complex,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, we don't see the connection between our conscious and unconscious. Like much of the unconscious is hidden, which is why it's called the unconscious.
Hmm.
So we don't notice how our unconscious is influencing our thinking,
Hmm.
thoughts, and words, as well as our behaviors. And unless we go deeper, we can assume that our thoughts and words are the real thing. And
Right.
it's really important to question it. It's like, where is my
Right.
thinking coming from? Why do I feel like this needs to be harder than it is?
Right.
Or why can't it happen, like you said, in an instant? Why can't
Hmm.
change happen? And it can. And a lot of times we make things unnecessarily harder on ourselves because
Right.
of these internal things. And you did
Yeah.
mention two things I want to add. You talked about, money and then also health. I've got two more statements. I don't usually share them, but it'll be good. If they want to add avalanches of money is flowing to me in avalanches of abundance. And then all parts of my mind and body are healing. So this
Mm.
covers everything. It covers us
Yeah.
being able to do more things. It covers us from breaking our limitations. It covers the financial security part because I know everyone is working through that. And then it covers the health and physical aspect.
Oh, that's so good. And before I wrap everything up, how does forgiveness come into play for this? Because sometimes we have to forgive people who may have been lying to us in our subconscious or ourselves. Like, sometimes we have to forgive ourselves to move forward into the promises our Creator has for us.
This is interesting because that idea just came to my mind this morning. And forgiveness is huge. So I do a lot of work. I've done works all types. I've traveled to over 100 countries. I've worked with jungle shamans in the jungles of like Colombia and Ecuador. I've worked with healers, masters, and in between, I've come across a lot of quacks. Like just in every aspect, I am, seeking advice and doing the work. And I remember, like, I think it might have been 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I was working with one person, and she told me, for me, it was going to be important to work on the forgiveness piece.
Mm.
And I didn't take too much, I didn't heed her advice too much. She gave me specific exercises or a specific thing to listen to work on it, and I didn't. And it's coming up now because I work through other parts of resistance. And although I'm making the progress that I'm wanting, I'm it's not as fast as I'd like, and this forgiveness piece came up. And forgiveness is huge because, as we're growing up, if we had harsh parents who kind of blamed us for a lot of the challenges or said that we couldn't do things right or scolded us for mistakes. And it doesn't have to come from parents, it could come from peers, it could come from teachers, it can come from bosses. Over time, the unconscious starts accumulating that we aren't good. Again, we're not deserving, or that we made a mistakes. And because of that, the brain can create resistance or make it more difficult for us to go after the things, or uh, make things more difficult than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because we're holding on to these things. And if we can forgive ourselves, it can release that pressure that we're holding inside. It can release that part of resistance that's saying, no, things have to be more difficult, or no, you can't have this because you did all these things wrong. So forgiveness is huge. And I don't like to teach anything I haven't experienced myself or have whatever. I can't say what that looks like. I think we could probably put it into self-talk and just say, I forgive and love myself, or however the person needs to go through. It's going to
Mm-hmm.
be really, really important.
Yeah, it's so good. And one of the things that I even worked on myself this week was um about forgiving others. And yes, for
Yeah.
self, but then there's no room for bitterness. If there's a bitter
Yeah.
root anywhere, I mean, even the events that happened in our country last week with the assassination of Charlie Kirk,
Yeah.
speaking on just the event itself, we have to not have a bitter root for anyone and how they reacted with anyone, and even the person who did the act,
Yeah.
because the moment we take that on, it stops the flow of what God's doing in and through us.
Yeah.
And so, and it doesn't even have to be on a national level. It could be on a very personal level. Your husband, your spouse, your children, your parents, your siblings, a coworker, whoever, a neighbor.
Yeah.
Like one of the things I recommend for everyone is to just ask, your spirit inside of you, is there anyone I need to release?
Yeah.
Because it opens up and removes that tension. And then you can say, it doesn't even, people are just like, but won't that reopen the trauma? You don't have to relive it. We're not asking to relive it. It's just pretty much going, I release this person for this. You don't even have to say it if you don't want to, and just say, from ever owing me anything, including an apology, and just let it out, let it go. And then, the forgiveness piece, I love it. It's like, once, every day, make sure you're forgiving. There's no room for bitterness for others, no unforgiveness for others, and for self, because then there's no room at all for the
Yeah.
spirit to be blocked.
Yeah. No, I think I touch up on the forgiving yourself,
Yeah.
but you're talking about something very important, which is forgiving others.
Hmm.
And yeah, if we're holding on to things, then it not only creates like an energetic block,
Hmm.
but now we're on guard.
Hmm.
And when the brain is on guard, it can allow opportunities to come in because it doesn't want that same thing to happen again.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so, yeah. And so if we can just forgive, because forgiving others isn't about them, it's about ourselves.
Right.
It's so we're not blocking ourselves and we can move more easily through life
Right.
without this weight. And it, really helps take the negativity out of our experience.
Hmm.
And when we take that out, it can actually move us into the direction that we want to go. So
It's
that is, yeah, it's really huge.
yeah, and anytime we allow the Holy Spirit to lead us and we become peace and we become love and we are love, we can make an impact that will change the planet instantly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And man, does this world need more of that,
Yeah, we
right?
do. Yeah. And especially right now. Yeah.
Right. So I would love for you to finish with a word of encouragement over our audience who one we definitely want to know how to connect with you if they're just like,
Sure.
well, I want to learn how I can experience a free flow of green lights that, my heart's desires and the green lights match and massive change happens, right? Because when massive change happens, we have overflow of finances, not only for ourselves, but to bless others. We have, our business is successful, our jobs are successful, our families are successful, our health, our everything is in abundance, right? So if someone's stuck in this and they're listening in discipline, like, well, I mean, it's good for everybody else, but not for me. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't, maybe I'm too far gone. I'm too stuck. I'm too whatever. All the words that we want to say to ourselves, which I rebuke for myself in Jesus' name.
Yeah.
But what would you say to them? How can you speak some life and hope over them?
Okay. So how I like to end things is I would like people to understand that wanting doesn't equate to having. Just because we want something doesn't mean we'll take the necessary steps to go after it. That's because when the want comes up, resistance looks through it and goes after it. And so a lot of times when people had wanted something and they couldn't go after it, they just assumed that there was something wrong with them or that they weren't good enough or all of that thing. But it's not that. It's just that resistance came up. And if we can dive into what that resistance is and move through it, then we will be able to go after it. Though the key thing here is know that just because you desire something doesn't mean it'll just happen. We have to be aware of the roadblocks our own brain will throw in our path.
Mm,
And if we can be aware of it, that's actually oftentimes just enough for us to move past it. Because
mm,
it's when we're not aware and then the roadblocks come and then we get defeated and then we give up. But if we know, hey, these things are going to come and they're actually going to come from my own self, then I can not only prepare for it, I will be able to have the awareness to kind of move through it.
mm.
And so, yeah. And so just because it feels like you're too far gone, it doesn't actually mean you're too far gone. It just means that to look at it, resistance in a different way. And the best way to really start is with the self talk. Like I promise you, if you repeat the two statements I gave or add the two additional ones, I'm a do it now person. I easily do things now. I easily accomplish my goals right away. I deserve, have permission, and I'm having good things on a daily basis. This is something a person can repeat while cooking, cleaning, driving, in the shower. I do it all the time when I'm exercising and all of that. If a person just starts repeating it in their head, I promise they'll see the shift. And I want to reiterate self talk isn't writing it down or positive thinking or having it or looking at it. It's actually repeating it. You can repeat it in your head or verbally. And that'll get you on the path. And if a person doesn't want to take it to the next level and work with me, I have a course called Conquer Internal Resistance. And it not only goes into all the different criterias, many we didn't even get a chance to talk about. It covers our wants in detail, and it also talks about the tricks of resistance. Because when the mind holds us back, it doesn't tell us it is. It uses manipulative tricks, and they can get that at kamknight.com. And if somebody wants to work one-on-one with me, they can email me at cam@kamknight.com. And I had developed a technique, which I call the Kam Knight method, that helps people go into their unconscious to see what the resistance are. And we release it at the unconscious level. It's actually pretty wild. So it's not me coaching or guiding, but they go into their unconscious to really see the roots of what's holding them back, when they were created, how it's affecting them, but more importantly, releasing the effects of it. So when they have a decision, they can act on it versus going through all this stuff to weave around it.
That is so amazing. Well, thank you so much, Cam, for sharing your heart with us today. To our listeners, remember, your story isn't over. You're not disqualified by what you've been through or what you're right now going through. And with Jesus, you are always healed, whole, and called. Thanks again.
Thank you very much, Wendy. Again, it was really great to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome.
If today's conversation stirred something in you, a memory, a question, or a quiet sense of calling, I invite you to honor that. You can follow Healed, Whole, Called on the platform you're listening on. And if this episode resonated, Leaving a review helps these conversations reach others who may need them. If you know someone walking a similar path, consider sharing this episode with them. And if you're carrying a story or testimony and feel a nudge to do something more with it, the Story Discernment Guide was created for you. It's a reflective resource designed to help you pause, pray, and gain clarity before taking any next step. You can access it at storycalling.info. Thank you for being here and for stewarding what you've been given.